Let us start with today's topics. The topics that we cover in this particular series are the ones which are appearing in daily newspapers, how they can be beneficial for you to increase your knowledge, plus understand the topic and use these in any answer or any discussions or any other interview. So let us start. First one, reforms required in the GST. It will be part of our GS3 discussion, Myanmar and road to peace, and the role that India can play in this one. We know that Myanmar is in the military rule as of now, so we will discuss about it. Third one is the three new dedicated freight corridors. So you see the train corridors on the same tracks the freight train runs, on the same track the passenger train runs. So the idea behind having a dedicated freight corridor and three new are also being in the pipeline is the next topic. Limitations of the government policies, how the government policies are formed, how they are implemented, and when we talk about their feedback system or the implementation and the outcome of that, what are the challenges and limitations will be our next topic. Then comes substance use reduced in American youth, how it was done. Substance use is a very, very big challenge that is emerging in the youths of the country. To reduce this one, the American people have been successful. How the policymakers were successful, we will see it. Can this be done in India also? Where yesterday we also, understood that how the suicide rates in the country and suicide rate because of even the one reason was substance misuse and drug abuse. We now come to the first one. Kelkar, who headed the 13th Finance Commission, Vijay Kelkar Sahab is saying that we require GST reforms, and because of the unnecessarily complex, GS structure, if we do the GST reforms, then GST can be more game changer for our economy. Before telling what are the reforms that Vijay Kelkar Sahab is suggesting, we must know that what is GST. GST simple form is Goods and Service Tax. It was implemented in July 2017 to do away with multiple taxes. Those were actually implemented or taken at that time. Taxes, as you know, are both indirect and direct taxes. Direct taxes is one whose direct point is the person from whom it is directly collected. Suppose say we are paying income tax, so this is a form of direct tax. Indirect tax is actually through some commodities that we purchase in the market, through some services that we use in the market, only those will be paying. So suppose say a particular brand of soap is there. Now this soap, if we purchase it, suppose a 10% tax is being implemented. So this 10% tax is indirectly paid by those who are using it, that is not directly paid by us to the government. It is paid by those who have manufactured it. They will be paying, but we are at the last source of it. So we are paying, but we are not directly paying. Earlier, value added tax used to be, but value added tax has been subjugated in GST structure. So GST, it was since launched in July 2017. With it, the IT infrastructure was also launched and a new structure was cleared and a new institution called GST Council was also formed. What the GST Council does, the GST Council has regular meetings and those GST Council members in which actually the Union Ministry has the representation and the State Finance Ministries has the representation, they sit and decide what will be the GST rates on whichever commodities, whether the items will be included or excluded, and that is why the GST Council is regarded as an institution which is an example of the cooperative federalism. When we talk about federalism, this is a power division among the union and the state government or the different wings of the government. So when we talk about cooperative federalism is one where the federal system of the government, especially center and the states, they sit together and they decide about cooperation rather than having problematic areas among them. So GST was envisaged as one structure where they would be bringing a single tax structure for the entire country in the indirect tax zone. With this introduction of the GST, what happened is a commodity that was part of the GST attracted a single rate structure across the country. Suppose, say, there is a category of soap. That soap, if it was manufactured in Jammu and Kashmir, and if it is reaching, suppose, say, in Himachal Pradesh, then there used to be different taxes that time. But now, whether you buy that soap in Jammu Kashmir or in Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu, or you buy it in Karnataka or West Bengal, the indirect taxes on this one will be same because the GST is same. So number one, it uniformalized the tax structure of the GST or indirect taxes. GST also brought a decisive regime change where anybody who is trying to put investment into any territory does not have to look for other single structures of the taxes, because at that time there were multitude of taxes. So just he have to pay once and clear himself from all the duties. You see, the tax reports are also need to be filed by the companies. The moment you file tax report for multiple taxes, then the ease of doing business for the companies actually reduces. If there is any dispute among the tax settlement also, that dispute and the money that has to be settled or the tax demand that has to be made, actually that gets also a problematic zone because multiple taxes are there, and to resolve actually all those multiple taxes disputes become in itself a very big challenge. That's why the GST dispute settlement authority kind of a structure is also needed, and it is in the works. But because of the single tax, the multiple taxes have been reduced and there is only one tax. What it has also tried to does it has also tried to increase the amount of revenues that the government used to earn. You must have also seen that GST has clocked close to 1.8 lakh crore rupees monthly income levels. So the collections of the GST have been around 1.8 lakh crore rupees, have touched even this figure. Earlier, the GST has its own glitches, but slowly, those glitches have been reduced. The introduction of the e-way bill was also a revolutionary step where the unnecessary hurdles in this particular, I mean, transport movement were reduced. You must have also seen that because of the single rate GST and the removal of other indirect taxes caused the movement of the goods also across the state borders, the movement became easier. Earlier, because of the sales tax or other issues, those goods trucks which used to cross one state boundary to the another state boundary, at the borders of it, there used to be large lines or queues. They have also gone away. So these are the benefits of the GST. When we talk about what are the reforms required, one among them is including multiple items, especially electricity and the alcohol-based items. Even the fossil fuel, especially petrol and diesel, they have also to be made part of it because electricity, alcohol, and petroleum product, if they are attracting different value added taxes in different geographies, then there is a fragmentation of market. How the fragmentation? That in one state it is cheaper, in another state it is little costlier. So the demand in the border areas will then be affected because people will tend to buy into those geography from those geographies which have it in lesser costly structure. Suppose say Rajasthan, a petrol price may be few rupees higher, while in Haryana it may be few rupees lower. So those people who are living in the border areas would always want to go to Haryana and get it fixed, get it filled. So it creates fragmented markets. Number two also, there is a GST component. Till the time we do not include these particular items, the most items which are creating even inflationary things also, government will not be able to decide can we reduce the inflation by reducing the amount of indirect taxes on it. Suppose say today the union government wants to reduce or the GST council wants to give some respite for the petrol and diesel prices. It is difficult because GST does not include petrol prices and different states have to reduce them differently. That can be taken care of if the electricity or the petrol diesel prices are under GST. So the inflationary or any kind of price correction mechanism then becomes easier. When we talk about the alcoholic drinks also, we see that there is a black marketing of alcohol. There is a particular concern that from one state the alcohol passes to another, and through those they even passes to all those states which are dry state. So when liquor passes from one territory and come into another territory where the alcohol is even permitted, there the different tax structure on these alcoholic drinks make it a black market. Just like again give you an example of a state which have lesser prices for alcohol, lesser taxes, while the same alcohol brand costs more in another state. Time and again, it has been seen that the enforcement agencies have been catching the people who are supplying such low costly, same quality liquor into those geographies which have a higher tax structure. So it creates also a black market. So fragmentation, black marketing, inflationary things, etc., can be taken care of when the GST Council talks about including electricity, fossil fuels, and alcoholic drinks. Another can be creating a single tax structure. Single tax structure is one that is critically important. GST is regarded as a compensatory or destination based tax, and when GST was implemented, it was decided that the rates will be revenue neutral. Revenue neutral in the sense that earlier, whatever the GST that used to be put on commodities, there will not be more rates as compared to whole burden that the indirect tax passes on to different commodities. So this revenue neutral rate was one of the reasons why we adopted different rate structure. So Vijay Kelkar Sahab has suggested that rather than having a 0%, 5%, some like 14%, 18% of different tax structure, we should move to a single structure that is 12%. Some commodities have to be taken away from 0 to 5, etc., to a higher bracket, and other commodities have to be reduced to made part of 12% GST structure. They said that all those geographies which have successfully implemented a single GST or single indirect tax on commodities have been having only one tax structure. So one tax rate can actually create a unified market in the sense that categorization of different products into different tax structure will then go away. You will be having a single rate structure on a single commodity. How much practical it will be, it has to be decided by the political class, because as of now, there are certain items which suppose they fall in the food category, they attract lower level of the taxes structure like 5% or even 0%, and even those which are considered as a sin good or other good which are the table for the luxury people or wealthiest people, they attract even higher rates. So the political class has to take a call on this. Another issue can be the revenue those can be earned because of this thing. Suppose say when the tax structure on a particular commodity like auto market, etc., or telecom market is on a higher side, revenues from that is on a higher side. But suppose say tomorrow, if we reduce this particular structure to say 12% and we try to bring from 0 to 5 upward to 12, then revenue also can get affected. So the states have to take, or the GST council have to take this into consideration. So one reform is number one, bringing the multiple tax structure into single tax structure. Second reform that is suggested or normally suggested by other analysts is about empowering GST Council more and taking it out from attached to the Union Ministry and making a sort of autonomous body. Then comes the third one, GST Dispute Settlement Body that can be helpful to dispute tax settlement issues. Even the surcharges or the GST surcharge and cesses have to be reduced to a particular level where the initial fundamental objective that we used, I mean that we thought about GST can be achieved. Cesses actually creates a kind of imbalance where the center gets most of the funds but state do not. But we have to also learn that center has its own complications. It has to provide the GST compensation, compensation also to the states, because when states implemented it, those states which were producing state were in the disadvantage. Then comes even items such as electricity, etc., that can be included. So this is the whole that we are understanding about GST. Then comes road to peace in Myanmar. You must see that Myanmar is as of now under the military rule. The democratically elected government, whose leader was Aung San Suu Kyi, was, put in jail, and the political structure of the government was taken by military junta rule. Myanmar since then has attracted the ire of Western countries because Western countries, those are demanding the democratic roots to return, is right now championing the cause of either replacing the military, not replacing but causing the military relationship to change its attitude, or improve the human rights, or make the policy changes like this one where the democratically elected government can come to power. And one of the problematic area is also that Secretary General of the United Nations on March 18 actually also said that it's an area of deep concern where the deteriorating situation and escalating concern is in the Rakhine state. We know that Rakhine state in Myanmar is already challenged because of the communal strife. So if trouble arise in Myanmar and they affect the Rakhine state, how large can the situation be for the civilian society? So the civilian strife and the associated human right violation, those are happening in its geographies. If they have to be minimized, then Myanmar's peace has to be restored. What is India's contribution to it? We must understand that Myanmar is our neighbor. Any kind of unrest or civil unrest in Myanmar can cause a disturbance along our border areas. You must have seen that Myanmar actually with India has some sort of open border and an arrangement where the people who are living along the lines can move somewhere around 15 kilometers into each other's territory to meet their ancestors or the dear ones. But problem with the unfenced fair is also that all those people who do crime or part of the organized crime gang in our country, they run away to Myanmar and they run away from the clutches of our investigative agencies. Any further unrest in Myanmar can actually, give a sort of bump up to these particular elements. Even anti-India elements who are waging war or even trying to disturb the internal security of our country, especially in this northeastern part of our territory, are also getting some sort of, they are getting some sort of protection when the civil strife happen into Myanmar's territory. So that is also one of the another concern. Also, one of the concern is if there is a favorable Myanmar government to us, then the kind of economic opportunities or the land or sea-based connectivity that Myanmar can provide to our country to the northeast areas and overcome the chicken corridor that India has in the northeast can also become wholesome. You must have seen that with Myanmar, India is creating India-Myanmar-Thailand highway. Then there is a project of the airport, Sitwe port also. Even when Myanmar actually is peaceful and there is a democratically elected government, Western countries' relationship with Myanmar will ease. Economic sanctions that the West has implemented on Myanmar will further ease, and dependence of Myanmar on countries like China will also go down. So Myanmar's dependence on China will go down, and because of that also the influence of India or other Western countries in Myanmar should further increase. So we should create an atmosphere in Myanmar where the human right violation do not happen and the states like Rakhine states are kept in a peaceful internal security situation. Myanmar should also try to, talk with different framework of the civil society who are in the power center or are advocating the human rights. That's why peace in Myanmar is important not only for India but even for the globe also. Then comes the next, and it is the three new corridors are being envisaged for our country. And why that is? So somewhere around 4,300 kilometer new freight corridor are being talked about. First corridor, that is the East Corridor, is supposed to connect Kharagpur to somewhere in Vijayawada or Tenali. The second one, that is East-West sub-corridor, will be connecting Palgad in Maharashtra to Andal in eastern India. Then there is another one, North-South sub-corridor, that will be connecting Vijayawada in the Andhra Pradesh to Itarsi. So those will be having a different lengths, and 4,300 kilometer will be total, coverage by these freight corridors. But we must understand what are the benefit of the freight trade corridors. So number one, the movement of these corridors is faster for the freight trains. So time and cost can be saved for the goods actually, those are being transported through rail. We must understand that transportation by waterways is the cheapest way of transportation. Then comes the train-based transportation. Then comes the road-based transportation and the air-based transportation. So the waterways and trainways are actually the least costly structures of transportation. So when we allow the transportation by trains and when the dedicated freight corridors are there, then it becomes easier for us to send even those goods which are perishable goods also, because the turnaround time will be faster. The people sitting at the remotest corner of our country can send their goods to the port areas. You must know that Vijayawada, Palgad, the idea is to connect the dedicated train to the areas where the ports are situated. So those goods can also be exported into another countries. So export potential of our country also gets a further strength if we have a dedicated freight corridor system. That is the benefit of the freight trade corridors. You must also understand when there are different tracks for passenger trains and freight trains, then the passenger train turnaround time will also get faster. So the mobility of the people actually will be rather better than also. Faster mobility would allow the people to migrate between different cities in a faster speed. Even when there is a different, I mean, lesser time that is required to travel between city A and its satellite areas, what will happen is the pressure on the cities will also reduce. The congestion on the roads will also reduce because for faster mobility, people will use trains as compared to their own personal vehicles. With that also, climate related things will also come into picture where the vehicular pollution will reduce. When the vehicular pollution reduces and the emission reduces, that will also have its own major advantages where the carbon emissions will also reduce. So these are the benefits of the corridors. So what it is also trying to do is when we talk about the 1200 kilometer Kharagpur that is in West Bengal and Tenali that is in Andhra Pradesh, the route actually, goes through or passes through Bengal and Odisha. And mind you, West Bengal and Odisha are the two mineral rich states. So it is connecting to Vizag also. Vizag is a port city. So when the two mineral rich areas, when they are connected with faster train or dedicated freight corridors, then the areas which will be having coal, fertilizer, iron ore, the transportation of other commodities also, and these commodities like steel will become faster. So the companies actually will bring more investment and the turnaround time for these companies will be even becoming faster. So those commodities of the mineral rich areas of West Bengal and Odisha will reach to the export destinations in even a faster time period. The second route that we talked about is the north-south corridor is from Itarsi in Madhya Pradesh to Tenali in Andhra Pradesh. And it is also close to 1200 kilometer of road. So this particular, dedicated freight corridor is supposed to pass between Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh, and it will also cover coal, cement, fertilizer, petroleum, oil, and lubricants, among other things. So it will also bring the movement of the goods and especially these mineral-rich regions faster. One more thing actually happens with the dedicated freight corridor is along the dedicated freight corridors, Government of India has been envisioning to create, the industrial belts along the dedicated freight corridors. So that can also contribute to not only raising investment also in those areas, but even, creating economic opportunities and employment opportunities as well. So these are the infrastructure, how the infrastructure can create growth opportunities, can ease congestion. So how the dedicated freight corridor, what were the benefits of it, and what is the plan that I talked about. Then comes why government policies do not work. So government policies have their own limitations. What are those limitations? So we will be talking why the government's policies do not work or what is their limitations. You must understand that government frames policies after thorough discussions, but it is made principally by those may be having or sitting into those areas where they may not necessarily know what is happening at the ground level. Because at the cutting edge means the persons where the benefit has to come. At the cutting edge, the bureaucracy is not that much trained or does not have the qualities. So the people sitting at the top decide about policy making. So top-down policy making has its own limitation. So for one, why the government policies do not actually work. One is the reason is top-down approach of the policy making. Second approach is lack of training and lack of expertise at the cutting edge level of the bureaucracy. Third one is also that in India we have the generalist versus specialist debate. So when there are generalists, they have their own utility. But when we talk about the policy formation also require a decisive say by the specialist. So that has also to be looked into with a rather better angle. We have to provide structures where not only the lateral entry, where the expertise of the people who are in the private sector of a different domains, they can come and contribute in the policy making. The role of a specialist also may have to be increased, at least in those where the policy designs happen. We envisaged two of the services, but those services like Indian Economic Service, which was created in 1961, but it nobody actually hears about it, or there are very few who are emerging from the clutches of this particular service. So especially when we talk about the Indian Economic Service, most of the people even do not know. So the expertise of these services should also be used. So that is also one of the reason. Why the government policies also do not work is the lack of political will. Political will in the sense that when there is siphoning of the money that is done for that the money that was to go for some other particular project or policy is now diverted into another or is siphoned off somehow or the other. Although DBT, direct benefit transfer, try to reduce it, but it has not been able to do it completely. So that is also one of the reasons. Number fifth also that even the Prime Minister office is making policies, but their expertise is also lower because these people who are sitting in the Prime Minister office are also or were earlier part of the same generalist bureaucracy mindset. So the attitude of the people actually towards understanding some particular issues can be limited. I'm not saying that they are not, trained or not expert, but they can have also a limited knowledge as well. That's why there is a suggestion that Indian Policy Management Service can also be, I mean, created that can cater to the special cadre who can become masters in making policy or telling about the policy decisions. So we have to make sure that the government policies work because that government spends a lot of amount to give actually the people welfare benefits. So when government policies themselves will not work, then the economy will not be in sustainable mode. People will be not having better quality of the life. And if they do not have better quality of life, the amount of resources those are raised from the public for even further welfare of the people will be also in a limited quantity. So those are all linked together. We now move on to the fifth one, and that is युवाओं में नशा कम करने में. So the substance abuse cases in American youth has got decreased because of number one, education and other campaigns to stop the drug abuse or substance abuse. They are means American youth is now becoming more uh, concerned or aware about their health issues. So number one, what happened? Education played a big role. Number two, the campaigns to stop the drug abuse and substance abuse, video gaming, plus role of social media. How video gaming and social media? Because of these, people are continuously sitting on these and playing on virtual world. So the study also says that the regular interaction among youth has decreased physical interactions. So when they are not meeting physically, chances are that they are not doing the substance abuse because one party, if among these two parties when they meet, and if suppose say one is doing or indulge in smoking or substance abuse, then the other also try to use it. But when if they are sitting away and using video game or social media, so their physical interactions have reduced, and because of that also substance abuse have also reduced. Teenagers actually has now understood also that what are the health concerns of using the substances. So that has also been one of the reason. Monitoring the future survey talked about that in 2023 46% of college goers thought that they did alcohol, and 15% said that they have done smoking. But this particular, the data set that has been provided by this one is very, very less as compared to the other ones. Even what the things have also contributed is increasing the age group which are limitations of the age to 21 years, those who can buy the tobacco or alcohol, and that has also made a difference. Social media and video gaming, I told you about it. So these are the things actually which any other country can also try to implement if they are seeing that the problem of the substance abuse in youth is increasing. In yesterday's topic, we talked about youth suicide and growing phenomena in our country, India. So reason was that also substance abuse and alcohol and challenge relationships. So when the substance abuse among the youth is on a lower side, by implementing such these kind of measures, the vices of or the problem of the youth suicide can also be taken well care of. So this is today's lecture. I hope we were able to justify. If you feel that we were able to deliver something good to you, then you can share. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.